and welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor and today I will be doing my April reading wrap up. April was such a busy month for me as I was finishing up the last month of my first semester of grad school, so I was only able to read a few books. But before we hop into the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you like all things bookish, content. This is my first video going up on my booktube channel. You may have found me or follow me over on my reaction channel called Taylor Pop Culture, but just as much as I love TV, film, and music, I love books too. So I thought today would be the first day, or the best day, to kick off my book channel, and what better way to kick it off than with an April reading wrap up and just a mini May TBR, because I'm not very good at making TBRs. So yeah, first off, I'm going to give you a little April reading wrap up stats. In the month of April, I only read 6 books, which was... Actually, I think February might be my worst reading month of the year, but this is probably second, because I read like 10 books in March and like 7 or 8 books in January. So the 6 books that I read in April, 1 was academic fiction, 3 were romances, 1 of which was a novella romance, 2 of which were full-length romances, 1 fantasy, 1 young adult mystery is what I'm classifying it as, and 4 of those were on my Kindle and 2 of them I have physically. And my average rating for the month of April was 3.91, no 5 stars this month. If you haven't checked out my Instagram, which will be at TaylorMadeBooks, which is going to be linked in the description box, you can go ahead and check all of those ratings over there. But yeah, let's hop into the first book. So the first book I read this month was my only academic fiction, or academic nonfiction. I don't know. It's academic nonfiction. I don't know what I said in the intro, but it was just the Feminism Book. I wrote the women's history column for my school newspaper in the month of March, and I decided that I wanted to finish this, but since I had the book, I don't rate these kinds of nonfictions. I usually don't rate nonfiction in general unless it has some sort of like narrative skew, because I feel weird about, rating factual information. But yeah, first book of the month, the Feminism Book. This book is just a collection of history and like theoretical ideas surrounding just the history of feminism. So if you're interested in that, I got this on sale at Books A Million. The next book I read was In a Jam by Kate Canterbury, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. So this book follows, oh gosh, what is her name? Shay. This follows Shay as she is coming off of the hills of being left at the altar by her no-good fiancé. And after being left at the altar, Shay receives a letter from her step-grandmother's estate saying that her grandmother had passed away and left her everything, with 2 stipulations. 1, that she must live on the estate for 1 year, and 2, she must be married by the time the 1 year is up. So as she moves back to her small town of her high school, she runs into her high school bestie Noah, who's been pining after her since they were in high school, but Shay is none the wiser, and so Noah helps her get her farm back up and running, or the farm and estate that she inherited, and yeah, it follows their romance and their little marriage of convenience. So yeah, I found this book really cute. When it comes to romances that exceed like the 350 page mark, that's usually where I get lost, so that's why I kind of docked it the point for 4 stars. But it's a cute book. Shay was fun, Noah was lovable, and I love the fact that they had neurodivergent representation. Also, there's a plus-size female main character in this, but Noah's niece that he is in charge of has ADHD, and sort of the book kind of follows her as well. She is a very fun interjection into the whole story, and if you didn't know, it's placed in a tulip farm. And as someone who has grown up in the South around a bunch of festivals which takes place here and a lot of farmland, I can say I definitely got the vibes of small town. The next book I ended up reading was my romance novella called The Vampire in the Bookstore by L.M. Drew. So this is a Kindle Unlimited novella that I accessed, as well as In a Jam is available on Kindle Unlimited. I gave this novella 3 stars. which I went into this after having had read The Lady of Rooksgrave Manor, which features a vampire in that story. And I was like, wow, I like the vampire in this story. Maybe I'm actually getting back into liking vampire romances or vampire stories. And that's a lie. I think I liked it in the other book mainly just because he was not the main star, and like vampires weren't the sole plot device there. The Vampire in the Bookstore is just a short novella that follows the bookish loving vampire and the bookish loving main character Rosamund. She basically seeks this old 1,000-something-year-old vampire who's known for his literary fiction and how to restore books that she's admired for her whole life, and their little quick flirtatious romance ensues in this man's expensive and extensive library. I just kind of found it a little meh. But then again, novellas don't give you a lot of time to develop relationships. That's why I usually either like short, spicy novellas that are like less than 70 pages, or I just want a full length romance novel, because these like 150-page novellas kind of get me meh, and also vampire romances are kind of meh. But if y'all know some good vampire romances or vampire stories that I should be reading, leave them in the comments down below, because apparently I'm just not finding ones that are intriguing me. Up next is the second book that I read physically, which was The Inheritance Games. So Book Talk and BookTube most definitely influenced me reading this. So this book, if you don't know, follows Avery Grams. She is a down-on-her-luck teenager whose mother recently passed away, and she's currently living with her half-sister. She gets invited to the Hawthorne estate, and when she arrives, she is, given basically everything that Tobias Hawthorne had. So all of his money, billions and millions of dollars, his entire estate, all of his cherries, are bequeathed to her. And basically the entire book is following her and the Hawthorne brothers trying to figure out why on earth she and none of the other family members were given the full extent of Tobias Hawthorne's money. This is the first book in a series. There are 2 other books in the series. I gave this a 3.5 stars, just for the sheer fact that I thought it was good. It was mid. I feel like this book is a little overhyped for what it is. I love a good mystery, but like this did not live up to my all-time favorite series as a child, which was 39 Clues, and that is a family mystery in itself. The love triangle, didn't care about it. My favorite character in the entire book was Xander, and Xander did not get a lot of, screen time, airtime in this book. Hopefully he gets some airtime in the next book. Honestly, Avery end up with Xander. Although I kind of get the vibes that Xander's queer, so she probably went up with him. But if you're curious as to which side of the aisle I am on right now, I am Team Grayson, because Jameson is all sorts of on my nerves every time I have read the book. The 5th book I read for the month was Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent, and I gave this book 4.75 stars. So this was obviously what I consider the best book I read this month. This book took me the longest to read, though, which is no surprise because it's the first time that I'm really delving back into fantasy, although I kind of did read some of my Rick Riordan books in the last year or 2, so maybe not huge delve. But yeah, Carissa Broadbent's books have been on display all over the internet, particularly her vampire fantasy. And like I've stated, I've kind of decided to stay away from the vampire stories until I get the vibes again. But yeah, Daughter of No Worlds is the first book in a trilogy, and I also believe there is a short prequel novella as well that hopefully I'll be reading next month. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, so Daughter of No Worlds follows Tasana. She was taken as a child in these Threllian wars. The country that she lives in is called Threll. She was taken as a child to be a slave. And when we start the story, she has paid off, or has tried to pay off, her slave master to earn her freedom. And she essentially escapes the country of Thrall to this place known as the Orders. The Orders is the home of all magical beings, and Tisana goes there in search of, freedom and an army to take back to Thrall to free all of her friends that are still stuck in slavery. When she arrives there, she is told that she has to train to pass these trials, as is every Order apprentice must do. So she is placed with Max. Max is a little bit older than her, so we have a bit of an age gap romance about to ensue in this story. And he is a war hero in the country of the Orders. But he absolutely does not want to take part in anything the Orders has to do based off of his past. And so it's basically following Max and Tisana as they go on this journey of training her and then going off and fighting in these Thrallian or the Thrall countries to save the former current slaves. I love this book. Took me a while to read it just for the fact that I was savoring it. Max and Tisana's relationship was great. There's just a smidgen of spice near like the 85-ish% mark. And this story definitely tackles some heavy topics, although I docked it the 0.25 just because when they were tackling these heavy topics, I was not feeling the emotion. But I'll give you the trigger warnings for discussions of rape, slavery, and there is on-page violence as well. So those are the trigger warnings. Definitely going to continue on with the series. Definitely recommend reading this if none of those triggers affect you. And Max and Tisana's relationship, beautiful. Can't wait for it to grow. The last book I read this month was the book that I read the quickest. Well, I guess the novella I read the quickest because it's really short, but it did take me like 2 days to read it. The last book that I read was Throttled by Lauren Asher. I gave this book 4.5 stars. This is my first Lauren Asher book that I've read, and it definitely will not be the last because this book gave me such great feelings and vibes. I never thought that the F1 racing scene would be a great place to, set a romance. But boy, was I wrong. So Throttled follows the characters of Maya Alatorre and Noah Slade. And if Noah Slade isn't the most, romance man, book boyfriend character name, I don't know what is. But essentially Noah Slade, he's a 30-year-old F1 racing driver who's known for his bad boy and promiscuous ways. Maya Alatorre is the sister of Noah's enemy/new teammate, Santiago Alatorre. And Maya's, following her brother around for the racing year, starting up a travel vlog. And along the way, Maya and Noah start clashing a little. And that's because, one, Noah is Noah. And two, there's a lot of romantic tension between them. And it essentially follows their story from going from, brothers, enemy brothers. No, sister of my enemy to, relationship. I love this story. The only reason I docked it that half point is because I think this is her debut novel, and some of the writing read a little bit like debut. I wanted there to be a little more in some sections and a little different explanation in some sections as well. But overall, it was great. It was good vibes, and I definitely will be reading the rest of the series. Well, that was my April reading wrap up. Not as many books as I would have liked to have read in April, but now that my school's out for the summer, I will definitely be taking part in reading more. I'll do a brief TBR. I'm currently in the process of reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I will definitely be reading the next 3 novels in the Dirty Air series, and hopefully I'll get to the Dreamland Billionaire series as well. And I kind of want to continue on with the Daughter of No Worlds trilogy, but we'll see how my fantasy moods shuffle or go around, because I'm really in the romance must read the Dirty Air series right now. Plus I'm going to see Taylor Swift this week, so that's going to take up a lot of my time. But yeah, let me know what y'all read this month, if you agree with some of my ratings, or if you have some recommendations for me based off of my TBR or a reading wrap up, and I'll see y'all in the next video.